Janet. Try it like it graded. I want to talk to you today about OLO markers. These are the OLO markers I own, and I picked them up at the recent Creativation trade show. And I thought, I don't need another alcohol ink marker. I have a few sets already. But I went to a class on OLO, and they gave the history of not only the maker, but also how the product works, the details about how the ink flows and why OLO is different than other markers. And for some of you, you might be thinking the same as me, like, why do I need another alcohol ink marker? To tell you the truth, if I could get rid of the alcohol ink markers I have and buy a new set, it would definitely be OLO. So the first thing is that you can create your own markers. So you choose your two colors, and then with a connecting ring in the middle. Okay, so this is what the ring looks like, and it comes in different colors. It holds your pens together. Now, if you want just an end that doesn't have ink in it, and it's just the end of a pen, you can do that as well. They sell those. Depends on how you use them, or the two colors that you use together the most, or even the same colors in a chisel and a brush. You can put it together however you want. So they are very flexible in how you can create your markers. So you pick your two colors if this is your intention. All right. And then you use your connector ring, and then you have your marker on either end. So let's look at the end of the marker. If you can see this here, I don't know if I can get it to focus in, but what we have here is RV. So that's a red violet. And then it has a number code, 1.5. So the first number is telling you how true to the main hue is that color. And then the 5, if you want to think of it this way, is how much gray it has in the color. So if we look at the wheel, and actually here's a good example on this paperwork here. If we look at the 3 here, they're both blue-green family. All right, they're all 3 are blue-green family. So we've got a blue-green 2-1, a 2-3, and a 2-5. So what do you see here? Not only have they named it, but you can see that the .1 is going to be a lighter version than the .5 because this is a darker color. It has more gray in it, it's mixed more. So the pure color of blue-green would be like 1.0. So it has no gray mixed in. It's just the pure color. I don't know if I have one like that here. I have something close. We can look at this one. Don't know if it'll focus in for me. This one is a green 01. So it only has one, like this, one part of gray in it. And that's how they have created all of these colors. And you'll notice that there are colors missing. And you may find that they even jump from numbers. So you may have, like, here's a green and a green, and it goes to a yellow green and a yellow green. You may find that it jumps in numbers. So we have a 6, a 4, and a 2. So it's jumping those numbers that are in between there. So 2, it's jumping the 3 and the 5 because it's very subtle, and they may be adding them in the future, but they wanted to give you the variety that they could. And then also that if you were to then mix this color with a gray marker, you could create those in-between colors if you wanted to. So there was a definite purpose for how they created their colors and why they created them. So if we look at this, the numbers of 0, 1, and 2 are high saturation colors because they're the closest to the actual hue of the color. The 4, 5, and 6 will be a mid-saturation of a color. So you can see the wheel here. We're looking at the middle of the ring. And then the 6, 7, 8 are going to be a lower saturation. So they have the most gray in them. So like I've made a note down here to myself that the R.1. any number, the 1 is the true color of red. And then what is the additive to it? And what intensity of additive is there in that color? So I hope that makes sense. All right, what else did I want to tell you about OLO? It came up in class. Someone asked, why are they called OLO? And they even thought about that. And OLO, O-L-O, is the center of the word color. So it's the center of color. I thought that was really clever. I mean, just the planning and the thought that went into everything with these markers. Now, this is a sales kit that tells you for display for stores, like how to display them and so forth. But I wanted to show you that they have sets. And you can buy into a set. So they have a basic set that's here. And then they have other sets that they're gearing them towards different uses. So here are the sets. So let's just take a quick look. We've got a basic set, a portrait, a botanical, comic set, architecture, muted, rich, sea and sky, landscape, urban set, vibrant, manga 2, cool gray, and warm gray. So what you could do is pick up a basic set and a gray, either a warm or a cool gray. And then if you mix those together, you could create a whole bunch of other colors just with those 16 markers. So, nice ideas there for that. The other thing I wanted to tell you about, let's go back to this other image I have here. I think it's this one here. This image here, that the technology of how this is made is quite interesting, and that it's proprietary how the ink flows to the tip. All right. And in most markers, we were told that the percentage of ink that you're actually going to get out of the chamber, of no matter what size it is about 65% of the color. So you're losing a lot in the chamber that remains in that pen. But with OLO, you're getting 90% of the ink that's in the chamber. And the ink that's in the chamber, which is just, half the size of a double pen, is actually the same that you would get from other full-size pens in this small area because of the condensed intensity of the ink that's in there and the flow of the ink. You're actually going to get more use or longer use out of this smaller amount. The other thing that's nice about these is that if you use them broken down, they're going to travel well because they're smaller. So you could easily pack up a bunch, right? And then put them together when you're going to use them wherever you're at. So that was another interesting fact. They do make refills, and the refills are quite unique in how they fill the marker, in that the refill plugs into the base here and fills up the chamber. All right, so you can buy the refills to go here. They said that a number of people have bought refills, but they're finding that it's just as easy to rebuy this than it is the refill. However, if you are concerned about, recycling and how that's going to work, alcohol ink is not recyclable. So the pen itself is not a recyclable product. And if you want to think about how you can help with the environment, then you may be interested in the replacement or the refill cartridges. The nibs at the top also come out. So if you find you want to, swap them out and do a different shape if you prefer one over the other, you could do that as well. So, what I have here are some colors, and just to talk to you about the blending, All right, the first thing we did was just basically to go into our flower image here and just color. All right, and as you color, I think I'm in the darker of the two here, 2 and a 1. Yeah, I only have one difference between these. It's a 0.1 and a 0.2, but as you color, you want to color in a circular motion, and not everybody, pays attention to that, but as you're gonna use the marker the way that you want to use the marker, basically. But if you want to do a little shading, you could then go to the next color, the darker color, and go in and work in those areas. All right, and then come back on top with the first color and kind of blend that together. All right, so that is one way to blend. The other way is tip to tip, in that you could take this to the tip, touch it, let it pick up that color. All right, now these are very close to each other, but if you pick up that color and then start and then pull out and work your way out, you're going to get a gradation between the two colors. All right, so we're going to get a darker color that works, and this is a small space that I'm working in, so this is very subtle because these two colors are very subtle to each other. So that is something to keep in mind with my demonstration here, but that is kind of how they can work. You can put them tip to tip and they will blend and work. And you saw me going back over, you're adding layer of transparent color. So every layer that you add, you're going to get a richer color. All right. Another way you could do is to fade out to white. So what we did here was I took my 0, I touched it to the blue. All right, so I picked up some blue, and this is a very, very light application. All right, so I picked up some blue with my 0, and I started here in the center, and I worked my way out. And I'm going to do that again. I'm going to pick up some blue, and you can see it's going to blend all the way out. So it's just the same kind of technique that we did over there, but it is just using one color and blending out to white instead of blending the two colors together. All right. The other thing you can do is create texture using your 0 marker. And so here we colored in this area on the bear. All right. So I've gone in and colored in the arm. And then we came back in with the 0 and then just tapped on top of it. And you can see that alcohol kind of spreading, kind of the same thing that alcohol inks do when you drop them into each other. So the more I dot with the 0, the more spreading I'm going to get. And you can see that happening over here. I can go back in with my purple, and if I want to create some value change, I can go in and dot with it, because I'm adding color on top of color, and so I can create a texture, kind of darker shadow towards the side of the bear and a lighter shadow towards the outside by topping with my 0 marker. With the 0, if you actually worked kind of outside your shape, let's say I was coloring and I kind of accidentally marked a little bit outside the bear, I can work to push that back in and kind of try to erase a little bit from that surface. Now the paper that we're working on is actually their premium marker blending card, and the surface is smooth. It comes in 8.5 by 11, and it's 100 pound. It's a smooth, soft, bright white surface that is perfect for ink and blending with alcohol markers. You can use it in your laser and inkjet printers, you can stamp on it, you can use it for card making. It's a really nice, really soft surface. I think the only downside I see to working with this is that it does bleed through to the back. So if you're looking for something that's a no bleed, this isn't it. And then we talked about, I like the idea of the feather blending of two colors. So I thought, let's go with pink and purple. And I'll show you the way they talked about doing this is that you're going to brush, and I would prefer to do this with, let's see, can I do it with blue? Oh, that's a chisel too. All right, so what we do here is you're going to go in, make sure I'm in camera. You're going to go in and just kind of flick with one color. All right, so you're drawing lines. And then you're going to come in with your other color at the other end and flick up to where they meet. All right, and then you're going to start working them on top of each other. And you can see now, a little bit hard to do with the chisel, but you can see now that as I go over, those two colors are going to blend together in the middle there. And if you pick colors that are the same in intensity, like this is lighter, this is more intense, like these two here are very close in color. So let me see. Okay, so here we've got a 0.1 and a 0.1, and I think I also have a 0.3 and a 0.3. So let's try these because these are new. We've done this color, so let's try these two colors because they're both 0.3s. Get the cap off of this. I don't know why I was having trouble, but I did. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go off to the side here, is I'm going to flick the blue. All right, so I've left strands that I can now come in with the green and come over that blue. And because they are the same intensity, both the second number is 0.3, they're going to blend together in the middle. All right, the more you go over it with the two pens, the more that area is going to blend those two colors together. So even though this is a darker color than this, the amount of gray, or the second number, is the same, and so they're going to blend similar to each other. So the other thing you could do is take your blending marker, and we were not taught this, but this is kind of how I would use or think to use a blending marker, is now to kind of go over this area and mix those two together. And so it's like dropping alcohol basically onto your alcohol ink. But that's, I would think that by doing that, you can see here I am building up somewhat of a different color, but I'm also adjusting the color, right? Because you can see the blue is changing and lightening, and so is the green. But that's another option, right? Another opportunity and ways to get those colors to kind of move together. All right. We talked about solid filling, which I think you're aware of, and that you layer. If you put down one layer and then you go over it again with the same color, you're going to get a little bit darker color, which we've already talked about. We talked about wet on dry blending, and so this is kind of a quick. Let's do a quick technique here. I would like to bring in a brush. Okay, so I'm going to use brush, okay, and I'm going to go into, make sure I'm on screen here. I'm going to go right wet on this outer edge here. All right, it's a little hard to see, but I can see it up close. All right, and so now I'm going to come in and work right on top of it and kind of pull out as I work. And so working wet on wet. So I'm keeping this wet, and I'm trying to work at the same pace. All right, so I'm using my blending tool. This could be another color. It's just what I have. So I'm going in with circular shaping. And you can subtly see that the more I go over the green, the darker the green is going to get on this edge here, and the lighter it is over there because of the blending brush. If I go in with more green on that edge, of course, I'm going to make that area darker. But a real subtle blend across the page doing that. I did get one gray. It's a warm gray. And so I thought, well, let's see what happens. This is still a little wet. If I go in here and just put some along that edge there, and then come back in with my green, can I blend those? Can I blend that green in? And that's not looking great, but if I did the touch-to-touch technique, if I touched the gray to the green, could I blend that out some? And that is working better. All right, so the more I go over that area, I am blending that color there. So that's an interesting way to do it. I like the touch to touch as opposed to laying down the color and then trying to get this to move, because it's not moving. I don't know if we went over this with the 0, what's going to happen here, because I'm trying to make dark, right? I don't really want to lighten it up, but I could lighten it up, and I'm just getting a weird mix now. But what if I went back over it with the green? Could I? And I may want to wait for that area to dry before I go over it again with the green. But you can see on the back how much ink we have already put in that area, right? So I like this area here. I like this area here with the pen to pen as opposed to the marking. And you can see I'm starting to bleed out into this shape. So can I get it to move back? I don't know. Let's see. Can I flick it back? How much can I move by flicking that back over into where it came from? I've almost got it all moved over. Now it may have altered the edge of my pear there, but I do have kind of an interesting gradation happening. Sorry, I keep moving the paper out of the center of the video here, but the gradation here is interesting. I could keep, reworking this area, try to blend these colors together and just keep building and building on there. But I did, for the most part, and it's still not dry here, but you can see that color has moved. All right. And now if I wanted to color this one with a different color and I came in here with a color on top of that, I could definitely get it, to go away or to be hidden with another color. But if it were white paper and I wanted to get it to move, then I probably would need to go into it again with my 0 and get that to move. Another thing would be to try going in with a sand eraser. I don't know how it kind of, because it's bleeding through the paper, I think you really need the alcohol in the marker to get the color to move. All right, I think that is everything I learned in the OLO class. So yeah, let me know what you think. Do you work with OLO markers? Is this something that's interesting to you? Is this a new concept to you that you can put the pens together and make your own pen sets? I find that really interesting. And I also see that there's the color difference here between the gray and black. And so I think what I'm seeing here is the black is the brush tip, and the gray, can you see the difference between those two? I don't know. The gray is the chisel. All right, so you can tell. So let's say you had the exact same color put together. You'd be able to tell by just looking at the body of the marker. So that's another thoughtful, interesting concept of how they have created these markers and what they have put together for us to use. So yeah, I'm interested, and I'm going to talk to OLO and see if we can get a relationship going. So let me know what you think about OLO markers, and if any of this interested you, if any of this was new to you, I would love to hear about it in the comments. But thanks for staying with me to the end, and I hope you found this educational.